I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com, and today I have a Bible journal process video for you. I am going to journal from some sermon notes that I have from the beginning of our Advent series at church, and today I will be journaling in Luke 1. We are specifically looking at the foretelling of the birth of John the Baptist. So I am excited to get going on this one. I think it'll be pretty simple, but we'll see how it turns out. If I will definitely link products that I use down below, so you can make sure to check those out if you're interested. Otherwise, I will put you guys on fast forward. Let's go. All right, so the inspiration for the creative side of this is a magnolia wreath, which I actually don't have, but I've seen a lot of people decorate with them for the holidays and just kind of throughout the year for different things, and I think they are just so pretty. And so what I wanted to create in my Bible was a somewhat dimensional version of a wreath. And originally I was going to do a circular pattern, but then when I was trying to figure out how I would make it work and how I would fit in my writing and not cover up the scripture that I wanted to focus on, I just ended up deciding I wasn't going to do an actual wreath, but instead I would just do kind of a garland. So what I'm doing is I cut out a little template and I'm tracing my magnolia leaf on several different shades of green paper. A couple of them are pattern paper, and then this one is from Felicity Jane. I really like that it's like this kind of dark green and it has a little gray in it. I just thought it was a super pretty color. So I am tracing out my magnolia leaves so that they will be mostly the same size, and then I will cut each one out. And after I cut it out, I will bend it in the middle. So I considered some different options. I definitely could have done watercolor for this particular one. I could have cut these out with my Cricut or my Silhouette, but I ended up deciding it would actually just be very soothing to do this repetitiveness, and I was just kind of taking the time to think over the sermon yesterday. I very much enjoyed our sermon. I'm looking forward to this Advent series. The series is actually called Christmaphobia, which is really talking about fears that come up this time of year and fears that come up for us a lot of time. And this particular week, we were talking about how fear and hope are two sides of the same coin. And often you can't have hope without there also being fear. For instance, you can't have this hope of perhaps getting a new job unless you probably are also carrying a little bit of fear that you won't get the new job. And so we were focusing on the story of Zechariah and how he was carrying hope that his wife Elizabeth would bear a child for them. He was also carrying the hope of the Israelite nation that a savior would be coming, that the Messiah would be here soon. And it was this hope that he carried in to the temple when he went to perform his priestly duties, and he had an angel appear to him, and in that moment he let his fear that it wasn't actually going to come true, he let that overtake his hope. And I thought it was just a really interesting take on it. I think it really hit home for me as I am someone that does have a lot of fear about different things, but I try to let it go and I try to hold on to hope over fear. And I don't think you can live without fear completely. I don't think that's part of the human condition. But I think you can choose to let hope take over, choose to focus on that side of the coin, if you will. Okay, so I'm using a Tim Holtz stencil here with this brick background, and I'm using a couple of different inks from Distress Oxide. I am using the Shabby Shutters and then also the Pumice Stone, and then I ended up deciding I wanted to add a little bit of a darker green, so I do pull in some sage green as well. And this is just giving a little interest to the background where my garland is going to be hanging. I had a little trouble figuring out how to match up the stencil to add some of the some of the sage at the bottom, so I just did my best. I just wanted a little bit more dimension there. So set that background, and then what I'm going to do is do a combination of adhesives. First, I take this adhesive with my ATG gun and just do 3 big strips down the middle, but then I'm also going to use a handheld kind of pinpoint crafting adhesive to add a little bit of glue to the tip of each leaf. And I will kind of secure these and then cascade them down the page. I want it to be mostly the darker green, and then every now and then you'll have a little pop of a pattern leaf come in. I'll speed up the process here for you. It was a little bit tedious, and upon retrospect or looking back, I would have started at the bottom and then gone up and layered them going up because I kept having to kind of tuck in the leaves, and that ended up being a little bit harder. So if I had started at the bottom, I could have just laid the leaves on top of each other. I was trying to avoid like a definite pattern, if that makes sense. I wanted it to be more of a free feeling garland, and I did end up running out of the dark green leaves. So later on you'll see that I trim out a few more, but I love this effect. Yes, it has some dimension in my Bible, but the truth is when it's closed, when the Bible is closed, all of these leaves will lay flat. So I can pop them up and I can have dimension when I'm looking at this page, but I don't have to. It can lay flat and it's not going to add too much bulk to my Bible. So I think it's a fun effect. I also think it would be fun to create this in a wreath formation, and have these leaves kind of cut out. This could definitely be for many different parts of the year, but it does remind me of Christmas. So I love this garland kind of hanging on the brick wall. Here's the need for some extra leaves, so I will trace those and then trim them out. I would say this, people ask me all the time, how long does this full Bible journaling entry take? Because of course I speed it up so that you don't have to watch through some of the more boring parts. And I know your time is really precious. So I'm not a big fan of watching like hour-long YouTube videos. So I tend to speed things up so that you can learn a technique and then move on. So this particular Bible journaling page took me about 45 minutes total. So it was actually a bit of a longer one for me, but I'm really, really pleased with the end result. All right, once I wrap up the bottom here, I do have a lot of the magnolia leaves left over. So actually I'm gonna end up just tucking them here and there along the garland just to make it a little bit more full in some spots to fill it in at the top. And actually it's super cute. The little leaves that stick out at the top kind of serve as my tab for this page. And it's a really easy way to help me kind of break up the pattern, make the garland look more full, and it's super cute. And once that's done, the main decorative section of this entry is going to be finished. The next thing I'm going to focus on is the title, and I'm calling this the Thrill of Hope because I think the thrill of hope, that's kind of the fear that accompanies hope at sometimes. I think of like a roller coaster. When you're going on a roller coaster, you're a thrill seeker. You have some bit of fear, but you're hopeful that you'll come to the end. You have this adrenaline, and I think real hope can feel similar, and sometimes it can even be confusing if you are feeling hope or fear. And so I think the distinction between the two is a really fine line, but a really important line to hold on to. So I wanted to notate the thrill of hope, and then I will add a little bit of notes at the bottom. I'm gonna do the hand lettering here. You saw I sketched it out in pencil first, and then I always come back with my Tombow lettering pen. And then I have these alphas that have kind of a burlap feel that I got on clearance from Hobby Lobby, and I liked the natural feel of them. I thought it went really well with the soft colors. This is definitely a little bit out of my normal style because of course I usually use a ton of colors, but I think it came out really nice and soft, which is nice. So the Thrill of Hope is the title. I'm going to trace around the word hope, just so you have a little bit more black on the page. And then I will end up adding lines at the bottom. And what I write at the bottom, I wrote, "Fear stands between us and our full experiences of the hope, love, joy, and peace we seek during Advent." And Zechariah is a great example of that because he's a priest and he was having the moment of a lifetime, really. When you're invited into the temple as a priest, this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance for him. And he let his fear get in the way of really embracing that moment. And he had a big lesson to learn from that. And hopefully we can learn our lesson from his story. The command "fear not" is actually mentioned 4 different times during the Christmas story in the book of Luke. And actually the command "fear not" is mentioned 365 times in the Bible, which is something my pastor pointed out, which I thought was amazing. And of course, the calendar that existed when the gospel was written was not the same as our 365-day calendar. But I just love that God gives us a command of fear not for every day of the year. Okay, once I write my notes, I do make sure to write out the verses I was referencing, since of course much of the Christmas story is contained within Luke. And then I decide, just to mess it up, make it a little more me, I will add some black watercolor splatters across the page, just for a little bit more interest. And that's it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell notification button. I would love to hear in the comments below what you are hopeful for in this Advent season or in the coming year. I will link things down below that I ended up using in this video, so you can check out those affiliate links. It doesn't cost you anymore, but it does help me support my YouTube channel. And I want to give a huge shout out to my Scrappy YouTube members. Thank you so much for all of your support as well. All right, I hope that you have a fabulous day, and as always, keep it creative.